Hey everyone, Rizwan Jagani here, and I hope you enjoyed this week's video. It consists of the interviews that I did of 3 guest artists at Scotia Festival of Music, namely Cameron Crozman, cellist, Tim Fain, violinist, and Andrew Armstrong, pianist. Just like I did last year, I asked each artist 2 common questions. In this case, I changed it up a little bit. I asked, what is the single most important thing to you as a musician, and how do you hope to inspire others through music? So I kept that one the same. And then like last year, I also took each artist and asked them a specific question to give insight about them. I do hope you enjoy this video. Let's check it out, starting with Cameron Crozman. Woo! Hey everyone, I'm with one of the amazing guest artists from Scotia Fest this year. It's Cameron Crozman on cello. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you.
And thank you again for agreeing to do this interview.
Oh, pleasure.
Absolutely. So I have 3 questions for you. The first 2 I'm sort of asking everybody that's doing this, and then the third one's just special to you.
Ooh.
So the first one is, what do you think is the single most important thing as a musician, artist, in that sense?
There's obviously, I think, because as an artist you are sort of, there's a personal element to it that I believe is very important. It's important to sort of be true to yourself that way, and to follow the things that interest you, whatever that might be, and try to find ways to make them work. But I also think it's important as a musician artist to not forget that, I think there's this sort of, we have this image of the artist that's sort of this, this person who's very inspired, who's constantly working away at their art and trying to create something, and something personal and all of these things. And that's important, but I think we also need to realize that maybe you could do this in the past with, back in the 19th century, but now we live in the modern world, we're more connected, and we have to remember that as musicians, we're also sort of, we're in a business as well, and that it's important to develop those skills of how to interact with audiences, how to build audiences, how to engage people in a way that's beyond just sort of sitting on stage and playing your music. It's about, maybe doing some research so you can speak before you play, or building projects, and even knowing how the whole chain of everything works with presenters and audiences, and knowing how to market yourself.
Yeah, social media also takes like a huge role in that.
Exactly, and it's something that I personally actually find very difficult, which is why I think about it a lot. Yeah, it's just sort of, I think it's important to accept that that's now a reality, just as concerts being recorded and filmed now are becoming more and more ubiquitous. It's becoming the reality. And it's important, especially as a younger musician, to get used to that now, because it's not going to stop being like that.
Absolutely, it's probably just going to get more and more involved. Yeah. So the second question I wanted to ask you was, how do you hope to inspire others through your music, whether it's they see you on like YouTube, now that we have mentioned technology, or like hear a recording, or see you in person?
Inspire is always like an interesting word. Yeah, I mean, it was funny. What I'm actually going to say, there's this really interesting thing. The last 2 days, I've played 2 pieces by Tchaikovsky. One that ends the trio, which ends very, tragically, this death march, and the Souvenir de Florence, which ends sort of in this like crazy state of excitation, right? And to see the different reactions of audiences, that people would come up to you after the trio and say, wow, that made me cry. Or people would come up after the Souvenir and say, that was the most exciting thing ever. And it's interesting, I find, because as the person playing on stage, you're not, you're still sort of doing your job. Like, you're trying to inspire people, you're trying to make people feel something. That's always our goal, right? Mm-hmm. But often it's, like, you almost can't try too hard to do it.
Absolutely.
If I was to think about, so that's sort of like inspiring audiences. If it was to inspire maybe like other musicians, which I think maybe is what you're talking about as well, younger musicians.
That sense too, yeah.
Yeah, that's tough because I still feel like I'm still being inspired, right?
There you go.
So I would talk about, if I had to give the best example, I was studying with Gauthier Capuçon in his class last year, and he was a huge inspiration to me. But what I think was particularly interesting is that he's still very young, right? Like, he's just in his mid-30s. And it was interesting for me to have a teacher that's not, so much older than me, right? And that was, I think what was inspiring about Gauthier is seeing how, and this is what I hope I can do as well, is that seeing how this guy who's, one of the top cello soloists in the world, who's busy traveling all over the place, still would take time out of his schedule to come and teach his students, right? for 3 days straight. That would what would always happen. He'd come back home to Paris, and he could be doing so many things. He could be spending time with his family. He could be spending time practicing, sleeping, whatever. But he decides, I'm going to go and I'm going to teach these young cellists and share with them. And he's just so generous with his time and with his advice and everything. And so I hope that that's something that I can do to inspire people, is to show that same sort of, that it's, even though you get busy as a professional, that doesn't mean that you're not going to be there for younger musicians or even your colleagues,
yeah,
right?
I like that, and because I think, especially because of your age, I think it's also nice because people, especially at this festival, relate to you on that level.
For sure.
And so it's better than, having somebody, like it's kind of like you have the experience, but we're kind of like learning together at the same time.
Exactly, and that's what I really like about it too. Is for me, it's of course I get to interact with my professional colleagues. It's so hard to know what that line is between what's a student, what's a professional, right? Like I don't even know where I sit on that line because I'm still at school, albeit not for very much longer. But I get both sides, and it's nice for me to be able to interact with people my age as well, of course, right? And to see what people are doing because, when you get busy with a life and the family and all these things, my colleagues have great projects going on, but it's so interesting to see what young people are doing because often you're thinking of things that we haven't even thought of yet. So I think the inspiration works both ways.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. And this actually segues us to our third question. At your age, you've already done quite a bit. You've been asked to teach here and do concerts and things like that. So what has been something that you've really enjoyed about what you've been doing thus far, and what are you looking forward to, I guess, in the near future? This is not one of those, what do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Yeah. This is more like broad perspective. So
what I really enjoy doing, I enjoy especially interacting with people, whether it's audience members or other great artists. One of the first thing I played here at the festival was a piece that I commissioned, and I've always loved working with composers and that sort of creation project. I think that's what I really find interesting, is that to me, this word creation, right? In French, because I study in Paris, I really like that we don't call a premiere of a work, we don't call it a premiere, we call it a création, a creation. And to me, creation is sort of what I'm most interested in, whether that's creating, projects that present new music or that present music in sort of an interesting way. That's something that I've really found, that I've been fortunate to be able to do some of these projects because I've had support of people, whether it's, I have an album that I recorded and I was able to fund it through Kickstarter and through donations like that, and that was sort of amazing because it allowed me to do a project that really I wanted to do, right? With a program that I wanted to do. So that's been really great. I've been really, really lucky. And also to be able to be around so many sort of inspiring people, to play with the people here at the festival or others, working with Gauthier Capuçon. I've played with James Ennis as well, who is also, just out of this world phenomenal. Yeah. You were here last year,
absolutely,
right? So
I had the master class with him. So.
And talk about someone who's just the most relatable person, right? Yeah. That's what I find, again, that's to sort of do a little backtrack, that's what I find so inspiring about these great artists, is when you meet them and you're like, wow, it's just a person. And the second part of the question was, where do I see myself going? Definitely more in that direction. I want to keep on creating things. I always have these ideas where, I have something pop in my head and I'm like, this is a total crazy idea, but how can I sort of make it work? And I find that I really do enjoy doing that. And otherwise, there's sort of the standard career building things. I'm performing with some orchestras and want to keep on doing that. Have these experiences of chamber music, orchestra, soloing, recitals, all of these things.
Sure.
That's not a very interesting answer, though. So maybe I should think of something more interesting to say.
No, but I mean, it gives you a different perspective, because you do have the element that you really enjoy, looking I guess as time grows, how music is growing,
yeah.
And then I guess also the stuff that sort of makes our foundation.
Mm-hmm. I think what I also look forward to is I look forward to collaborating. Two things. Let's say collaborating more with things that are maybe not as maybe mainstream classical as we think. Not necessarily always alternative music, but just with thinking about collaborations that are outside of the box. I think that's really interesting. Whether that's doing something with food and wine, or whether it's with another type of art or dance or any of this. I think there's a lot to be explored there still, and there's a lot of ideas still to come with that. And also traveling. I absolutely love traveling. I love visiting new places.
Yeah.
My favorite thing to do when I get somewhere is, hopefully to get up, especially when I'm jet lagged, it's easier because you usually get up early and go for a run.
Yeah.
And just explore places that way. And I've been so fortunate to explore a lot of places already, but I want to keep on doing that.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank
It's been
you.
a pleasure. I've been
Yeah.
enjoying all your concerts.
Oh, thank you so much. Well,
Absolutely.
it's been a great time here meeting
Thank you.
everyone. So.
Absolutely. Thank
Thank
you so
you.
much. There we go. Hi everyone, I'm with violinist extraordinaire Tim Fain, who's been doing some amazing performances this year at Scotia Fest, has also done some master classes in coaching, and is also doing this awesome interview with me. How are you doing?
Good, Rizwan. Thanks, man.
Absolutely, thank you again for doing this. So,
Absolutely.
with everybody, I've been asking the other artists 2 questions that you all have in common, and then one that is specific to you. So the first question, which is one of the common questions, is what do you think is the most important thing, to you at least, as an artist, performer, musician?
Definitely a really comfortable pair of shoes.
Absolutely.
I get on stage and I feel, that's when you get out there, you want to feel like you're just ready to speak to people and if you're comfortable, you can do almost anything you want to do usually. But yeah, I think like just getting out there and feeling like home is really fun and really satisfying if you can do that.
Absolutely. So I guess it's like, so you definitely feel like being like the most present with yourself, like on stage, just ready to sort of share this gift.
Yeah, just getting out there and feeling like I'm ready to share. I guess just really thinking about what it is that I'm getting ready to do, and thinking about my story that I'm gonna share. Music for me is really that's storytelling, and it's really whether I'm playing Mozart or Philip Glass or something in between, or any number, playing Iggy Pop or whatever it is, it's just like
Absolutely.
we have something that we as performers have something in common with everybody out there. We're all on this shared journey together, and I think there's a lot to celebrate there.
Oh, that's wonderful. Absolutely. And I guess this sort of segues us directly to the second question is how do you hope to inspire others through the music that you do? Whether right now it's on, like we have media, so you have videos on YouTube or your recordings or even seeing you in person. Like how do you hope that, the message that you're trying to give comes to others, and how do you hope that you can inspire them through it?
If music may not be able to save the world, but I think through sharing our stories and our experiences, we can maybe inspire other people and find the strength within ourselves as well to enact positive change in some way in the world.
Absolutely. Like you definitely have like a variety of music that is meant to empower you, that is meant to like sort of I guess heal wounds, or even like be a cathartic sort of representation of how someone might be feeling. So I guess in that sense, you're feeling like the same way, like through your music, that's how you'll sort of like connect with people in the same way.
That's my hope. Rizwan.
Absolutely.
I hope that someone out there is going to find something that moves them, allows them to get to a place, maybe a place of a little bit more vulnerability, or some place where you can, where we all can glimpse, even just for a few seconds.
Absolutely.
Connection it's already there. It's not anything that I'm building or inventing. Just maybe we are able to open a portal into that and see it for.
I like that. Kind of like
that.
Absolutely. Kind of like you're like the messenger in that sense.
Yeah, we're messengers in a way,
Mm-hmm.
Depending on what you believe in, messengers of some sort of hidden truth, perhaps that we see from time to time, and those are the moments that are the most important.
Absolutely.
Positive and negative.
Mm-hmm.
These moments of great change or catharsis, as you said.
Absolutely. Now, this sort of, like you had kind of mentioned the variety, like Mozart to Glass.
Right.
This brings us to my third question, and that is, with the amount of music that you've been performing, right now you've been sort of highlighting Philip Glass's compositions at this festival. You also performed with him in front of the audiences that came. Additionally, on the highlight concerts, you've been playing varieties from like Bach to Tchaikovsky,
Right.
and all these different ones. So with that, obviously you have that broad repertoire, that broad spectrum. What do you feel like most at home with? Do you feel it's more like the music that founds us as classical musicians, or do you think it's like more the new stuff?
You know, I mean, it's really, it's whatever I happen to be doing at the moment. Because, you know, when you walk out on stage like that, you found your place among, sort of in a way, sort of within music that you're playing, whether it's music that I've arranged or improvising, or whether it's something that's been written long ago that's really become, you know, a part of the canon, a part of this, the sort of the standard rep that every violinist plays. Or if it's something really new, some fresh ink, I think you walk out on stage and you're living within that sound world and that music. So I truly think that it's when I come off stage or when I'm about to go on, it's really that's the stuff that I feel like I'm living for, you know.
Absolutely.
And working with Philip Glass when he happens to be on the stage as well, and I'm walking onto the stage to be with him, that's a rush. I mean, you think of everything he's done and everything he will do. He's 81, but he is great health and really an inspiration to me and obviously to so many other people as well.
Absolutely. Like touching upon that subject with Philip Glass, like it was brought to my attention that on the second night when you were playing etudes with him,
yes,
you were more or less improvising.
Yeah, that was Philip kind of introduced it as a world premiere for the Scotia Festival because we really hadn't done it before. I made some comment to him in our dress rehearsal that day that I always wanted to, his second etude. So it was actually the first of his etudes that I ever heard, and I'm not the only one, but it really changed me hearing that music. And I told him that I'd always wanted to play that for violin and piano. He said, "Well, you know what? How about tomorrow?"
Yeah. And
we ran it through, half of it through in his dressing room the next day, the following day before the show. Mm-hmm. We really didn't go through number 10 at all. He just said, "You know what? It's in B flat. I'll see you at the end." That's really,
I really enjoyed that. And with that, do you feel like there's an importance or like a necessity for any sort of aspiring musician or any musician in general to have that ability to sort of do that on spot? Because I know for a fact that especially people in my music school, if you put them on spot to improvise, they can't do it. So, or they feel like a sense of discomfort. Do you feel like there should be an openness or a sense of becoming comfortable with doing it?
Well, you get out on stage there, and what choice you really have. It's I wonder about this. Rizwan, it's like the performances that I give when I'm not 100%, even not 90% comfortable.
Yeah.
I don't know. I sometimes wonder whether those might even be experiences for folks that are even more enjoyable than watching me when I am incredibly comfortable. We want to be comfortable. I want to walk out and just feel like it's like at the end of a 2-hour show and I'm sweating and just like in it and just like there's nothing else exists in the world. But yeah, sometimes you walk out on stage at first and you're surrounded by a lot of people who you don't know personally, and the air conditioning is coming down right on your face, and there's something kind of exhilarating about it. And maybe it's that excitement that actually creates the kind of vibe,
Yeah, and probably pushes you to those what you might even think is your better performance or best performance at the time.
The ending of that etude 10, 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2. The dig was on the 2 at the very end, so I figured I don't have to count to 4. I don't even have to count to 3.
Yeah.
I just have to count to 2, and then I'll be able to end.
There you go.
That was very funny the way he introed it. He was like, "If we end together, you guys owe us a standing ovation."
I liked that. I was like, that's how you do it. Well, I really enjoyed that. Thank you so much,
Rizwan,
and thanks
really
for agreeing
fun,
to do this It's been wonderful.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Hey everyone, I'm with pianist extraordinaire Andrew Armstrong, who just finished a huge amount of concerts here at Scotia Fest. We actually just finished the gala concert. He played an amazing Bach piano concerto, and he's doing this interview with me. How are you doing?
I'm well, Rizwan. How are you?
I'm good. Are you finally gonna get a chance to rest a little bit, or are you still on the grind?
I'm gonna sleep on the plane tonight and try to wake up refreshed in London tomorrow.
Oh boy.
It's been a crazy week.
I understand. So thanks again for taking some time to do this with me. So the first question I have for you is, what do you think to you is the most important thing as a musician / artist?
So a long time ago, I read an interview with Bruno Walter, the conductor, and he said, if you want to know what music is, it's very simple. It's love. It's love. And in the same kind of vein, for me, it's about connecting. For so much of our lives, we're just suspended in this ether at such a distance from each other, and we try to make connections wherever we can. And I think any connection that we do forge together is a minor miracle, And something about the power of music, from the first time that it hit me, for me, it made that connection human to human. It was Arthur Rubinstein playing Chopin. And it just got to a place in me that no words ever had, and it was just that sense of closeness to another human being, to the way that somebody else feels.
Absolutely.
And I've been addicted to that ever since. And so every concert for me is just, and coaching and teaching and playing with great colleagues like you, it's all about just that feeling of being together. I mean, it's so simple for me, but it's
Absolutely.
Just once you get that feeling, it's just addictive.
And it also just helps that, we play music that doesn't have words, so it's even more universal. So like anybody can make that connection if you just try and you try to like put yourself in that position to do it.
Indeed, yeah.
And that's something I always keep in mind. So this actually leads me to my second question: is how do you hope to inspire others through music? Whether it's the power of social media, a YouTube video, or in a concert, or even like through your audio recordings.
It's funny. I was just talking with someone. A really wonderful musician here at the festival. We were talking about sometimes within our field, I think in any field where people are striving for excellence, there can attach a certain negativity connected with the idea of, well, let's put it this way. I don't think it should ever be a testing ground. I'm not interested in that. I don't think we should all be doing all of this if it's about, can you play that piece without, missing any notes? And can you, can you play the most impressive version of that? If it's a testing ground, I just find that so uninteresting. And so any of the negativity that can attach itself to any field where people are striving, I think it's kind of counterproductive for what we're really searching for in music. So for me, it's all about, I like to invite. I think it's all about inviting and embracing. And so that's one thing I've just loved about Scotia Festival, is that the vibe here is exactly that. It's so positive. Everyone is here to just share and to inspire each other to do our best. And
Absolutely.
And that's I guess this is pretty cyclical, isn't it? I'm talking about wanting to inspire people to be inspired. But I want to inspire people to feel the possibilities, and I certainly am inspired by the people here at the festival to experience the possibilities. Someone used a term today in rehearsal that I had never heard before. I'll tell you, bow vibrato. I had never heard the term bow vibrato, and I got to learn what that is. And maybe it's just a huge gaping hole in my learning. I just never learned it, and all of a sudden, all these ideas of different keystrokes just came into my head.
That's awesome.
And so it's never ending, and it's just reaching out and finding each other.
Absolutely, and I like the idea that you mentioned the negative aspect of it becoming competitive, because I try to channel that out, and that's actually what prevents me from being jaded at times, just because I might not do well in this situation, but give me some time. If the situation presents itself, I'll be better ready. I'll be able to prove my point when I need to, and sort of those things. So I like that you mentioned that.
Well, that's such a wise response that you have to it. Some people feel oh, the test is there and it's uncomfortable. Okay, I'm not allowed to look away until I confront that or whatever.
Yeah.
And when you find that negativity, I think that's, I don't know, is that instinctive or something that you turn and you say, well, I'll save myself for the right avenue where it's a positive sense.
And I mean, it's okay to put yourself in uncomfortable situations because then they can become comfortable with time. But I think it's just the mentality you keep yourself in, that, you know, you're going into an uncomfortable situation to understand it, not necessarily to like outcompete somebody or, you know, just to like, you know, not to have like a negative effect, maybe to just gain something positive out of it instead.
Well, I mean, I can speak with 2 weeks of experience, having met you 2 weeks ago, and it feels like I've known you all forever.
Oh, that means so much. Thank you so much.
Every time I would run into you, I just knew, down to the last cell I just knew you would be coming with warmth and a positive, sunny, can-do spirit, and so I've been so grateful for that this whole time.
Thank you so much. So this leads to our last question. So everyone on the YouTube channel knows how much we love James Ennis. Andrew Armstrong is actually his duo partner, and I wanted to ask you a question about that. So obviously you have a personal relationship and a musical relationship. How does that change in a situation where you're playing with somebody that you like know very well, someone that you have never played with before, or someone that you're playing with after a long time?
Yeah, it's so interesting about playing with new people. I was just talking with a friend about this. Sometimes you play with a phenomenal musician maybe it goes fairly well, and you just feel deep in your heart, I don't need this to happen again. Sometimes it's just not the right fit. Mm-hmm. Even when it's a really good player, you know, it's almost like romance. You know, you have your right fits,
yes,
you know, in life. I'll tell you, with James, the fit has always been a dream for me. It's hard to describe what James is like to anyone who hasn't spent any time with him, because it's unthinkable when you hear him playing with the excellence that he plays with, to know how humble and grounded he is, and how thoughtful he is to friends, how loyal, how sensitive. And I will say, I'm usually not as nervous performing anywhere as I am just playing a first rehearsal with James. The excellence that he strives for is from the first rehearsal at such a level. I remember the first many times that I played with him, I would show up at the first rehearsal feeling, oh, I've over-prepared. I haven't fallen for the trap this time. I am so ready.
Yeah.
And then the first rehearsal comes, and it's like, oh my God, I've never looked at this piece before. And it wasn't my nerves. It was just the level of his knowledge that he brings to everything he does. So
that's awesome.
And it's so weird to have this like laid-back, amazing friend that you can go out for beers with after the concert, as you joked about, and like this supreme artist of a historical importance. I mean, it's just
absolutely.
I pinch myself all the time, Rizwan.
Yeah,
I pinch myself.
Yeah, I have a picture of him in my case, and it's like I pinch myself like, did that actually happen? Did I play for him? So
I was going to threaten to tell him that you have that, but I guess you've just told the.
If he sees this, no. But that's what I wanted to ask you. Like, you know, how is it like working with someone that, you know, you've had this rapport with? But like, I guess in understands, like, it inspires you even more.
Oh,
and, like,
absolutely.
You get to like achieve a new level of greatness just because, you know, you're working with someone that's really well, but you also understand each other on that level. And, you know, that's something that I'm striving for when I meet my musical peers. It's like, you know, can we get to this level together?
It feeds that one thing we all want so much,
absolutely,
which is never-ending learning. It's never-ending learning. There's just always a new challenge, and so
absolutely,
you never feel like you've arrived. You know, hopefully in any of our musical endeavors, you know, but certainly when I play with James, it's a pronounced feeling that
that's
I have,
awesome.
because there's just always more we can do. There's always more.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks, Rizwan.
I'm glad I got to ask you these questions.
Yeah, thanks for doing it. I really appreciate it.
Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed the interviews. It was so much fun getting to work with them, talk to them, you know, hang out with them as well. So yeah, I hope you learned a little bit. I definitely did from talking to them. As always, if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe to my channel if you have not done so. And be sure to stay tuned for my other adventures. I have a lot of things coming up, as I keep saying, but it is true. So you definitely need to subscribe. Anyway, take care. See you soon. Bye.